Okay, here we are. It's Tuesday morning, 9:01 a.m. I started at 9 o'clock exactly. Yep, everybody wants me to start at a particular time. My own particularly. Because you can't have a variable time. The show begins at 9. That's the way it goes. So that's what I'm doing. Well, the Pennsylvania Senate race is finally called. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has ruled that the local balloting districts within Pennsylvania cannot unilaterally decide whether a ballot is valid or not. It has to follow the same rules as the state legislature has designed. If you mailed in a ballot that was not signed, for example, wouldn't count. And apparently you have to sign and date it in 2 different places. And there are, like 1,000 ballots or something like that in question. And the Democratic Party wants to count those ballots because a 3-time Senator, Casey, he's insisting on a recount. So, and of course, when you've lost an election, the Associated Press, calls the election, I don't know what, and of course they when the AP sends out, notification of a race being called, then of course all the other media outlets, react and publish that finding, whether it's a news article or an election being called. I don't know what, the Associated Press apparently has a decision desk. So complicated. Yeah, oh boy. So this morning I've been watching all the Elon Musk interviews and tapes and so forth, and his Optimus robots, and it's such an interesting topic. This humanoid, they call them humanoid robots. And it has the hands, and they're manufacturing all these motors. It must be amazing to have such a talent pool of engineers where they can create all these these motors don't exist. The 3,000 different kinds of motors, electric motors there are, they don't have the motors that Optimus, the joints and the elbows and the knees and all this stuff. And, oh God. Anyway, so, they're on version 3 of the robotics. And so we'll see what happens. Breaking news. I don't know what breaking news is. Judge Juan Mouchant, may rule on the fate of Trump's New York conviction, which apparently the case and the evidence that was presented violates the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling on, there's a certain amount of, I don't know what the word is, confidentiality, or, when you have official acts and non-official acts. And Trump's official acts were incorporated into the testimony that was presented to the jury. And they came up with, rulings. And the Supreme Court says, you've got to separate that out. So this gives Juan Mouchant an opportunity to just dismiss this case and not, you can't convict. Trump has not been convicted of anything because even though the case has been decided by a jury, if the judge in the matter has not declared a sentence, then there's no conviction. The Democrats are saying, convicted felon. Well, according to what I've been hearing from all these talking heads, if the judge has not sentenced the president-elect, then there's actually no conviction. So that, aside from that, it's a matter of these official acts and non-official acts, and there was a certain amount of testimony provided in the case, which, if the case was appealed, the talking heads, basically are saying the case would be overturned anyway. So Juan Mouchant certainly knows that. And since the lawfare didn't work, it didn't affect the outcome of the trial. Maybe he just dismissed the whole thing and let it go away. So that's a little bit of a mess that hasn't been resolved yet. You don't want a president having to worry about that when he's trying to run the United States government. That's another point of contention. Anyway, so that's one thing going on. Let me just move on with some of these pictorials. There's SpaceX is set to launch at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. You see that right? Central Time. Exactly. Flight number 6, test flight number 6 of this huge, it is absolutely huge. This Starship rocket that SpaceX has designed with, I think it has 33 Merlin engines. Raptor engines, which are bigger than Merlin engines. There are 9 Merlin engines in the other rocket that he's designed for setting up satellites in Earth orbit, like Starlink satellites. This Starship is huge. It is 30 meters in diameter, which is 30 feet in 30 feet in diameter, and 230 feet tall, just the booster. And remember last time, a couple of months ago, it was landed back on these calipers that caught it. I suppose, like in midair, which is like unimaginable. Oh, gosh. So that is at 5 p.m. And the President of the United States has apparently, will fly into Boca Chica, Texas, to into the SpaceX launch facility in a safe place in case the whole darn thing explodes. I mean, the pressures and the amount of super under pressure liquid oxygen and super under pressure liquid methane gas, if I understand it. That's methane, ethane, propane, butane. Remember that? Methane, ethane, propane, butane, in the days of organic chemistry, which I used to be so familiar with. This is methane, CH4, under high pressure and low temperature, can turn into liquid methane, which is the propellant, and liquid oxygen is the oxidizer in this. In these two huge separate tanks that are inside the booster, and the fuel gets pumped into these, I believe it's 33 or 34 Raptor engines. And on previous shows, I have shown how it's gone through 3 different versions of the Raptor engine. So here's what happens. Let's see, yep. So when things get underway, at T-1 minute and 15 seconds, the SpaceX flight director conducts a poll of all the people that are watching the statistics of, what's going on with this launch, and verifies, that it's go or no go to load the propellant. Hours, minutes, seconds, yeah. So with, 49 minutes and 50 seconds, then they begin simultaneously. The ship is then fueled with liquid methane, and that gets underway. They call it LOX, LOX, liquid oxygen. That is, so you have these things that have to get loaded into the boot. They're, these two ingredients, the liquid oxygen and the liquid methane, are kept under high pressure and low temperature, so that, the boiling point is like minus 100 degrees. Okay? So it has to be really kept really cold in the most unbelievable freezer that you can imagine, and under pressure, thousands of pounds per square inch to keep so that it doesn't run off, evaporate, so to speak, or boil. Anyway, so they have these big pipes and they pump it into the big tanks, and that's why you see the booster kind of like steaming. It's actually huge quantities of steam, because at the tip of Boca Chica, Texas, it's like on the very tip of Texas. If you can recall the shape of Texas, if you were to put your finger at where Boca Chica is, it's right in the tip region of Texas. Yeah. So the booster LOX becomes underway, and the booster fuel is underway T-minus 30 minutes or so. the Raptor engine begins to chill down, which some of the vents are open so that the Raptor engines begin to be chilled. With T-minus 3 minutes and 20 seconds, the liquid propellant should be completed in the first stage, and the booster propellant load is complete. And with 30 seconds to go, SpaceX flight director verifies that everything is go for launch. That used to be T-minus 40 seconds. They've optimized that time to T-minus 30 seconds, apparently, because my memory serves me that it used to be T-minus 40 seconds was the big key for go or no go. And the flight director, who has all these 30 or 40 flight engineers calling into him on his display screen, the various ingredients for this launch, and he can kill the launch. But when he pushes that button with T-minus 30 seconds, the thing is basically on an auto launch, and there's, I guess there's no stopping it at that point. So here's a graphic. It's a nice graphic which shows the super heavy engine start, and then you have a launch, and you can see where the launch goes, and then right about this point where the first stage and the second stage separates, which is that point right there, and the second stage completes, goes on, but the first stage, the booster, then does a special flip maneuver, which flips the booster around the other way, and then you have the boost back burn, which then slows down the booster, because it's going at like 8, 9, 10,000 miles an hour, essentially pushing the second stage into a position where when its engines start, it carries on into a low Earth orbit. Meanwhile, the second stage flips around and then gets caught by this gantry with these calipers, which was quite spectacular to see a couple months ago. Well, they're going to do that again. They fine-tuned. So what's unique about this mission as opposed to the one 2 months ago? Well, they fine-tuned a few things, and a few of the things that they fine-tuned is the flaps. When the second stage wants to come through Earth's atmosphere to, in theory, land, they actually dump it in, I think, the Indian Ocean. Oops. There we go. Let's get back here. There we go. Yeah. Landing burn, and it's a splashdown. Yeah, I believe it's in the Indian Ocean. There will be a time. Anyway, let's go back. So they re-engineered the flaps in the front of this guy, because when it's coming through Earth's atmosphere, there's a heat shield on the underbelly of this second stage, and there was quite a bit of degradation of the metal, melting and so forth because of the extreme heat. It's like 2,700 degrees Celsius, I believe. And part of those flaps were, you could see, were like burning off. They didn't burn off, but boy, they were super red hot. I think the metal is like titanium, so they've apparently re-engineered the heat shielding. They positioned the flaps a little bit differently. They changed some of the heat shielding so that those front flaps won't get degraded as much as they were in the first two flights. Anyway, so this is test flight number 6. The resumption is in test flight 7. This is just Jimmy making this up now. Is they're not only going to catch the booster, but they will catch the second stage instead of having a splashdown and losing it. The theory is they don't want to lose it. I watched a few of these videos. I'm looking up here at the screen, which is a delayed broadcast, and they're talking about the Teslas and the incredible charging network that Elon Musk has built so that you can energize your electric car like if you were on a road trip. Speaking of electricity, I'm happy to report that if you'll recall, I live in a 9-story multifamily Royal Palm Place. I live in apartment 812. Well, one of my neighbors that lives a couple of doors, south of me, had a Tesla. He was parked on the second floor in the parking garage, and he sold his Model S and decided to get a Genesis, like an SUV, which is a taller car. It's easier to get into. You don't have to fold as much. I drove a Model S for a couple of weeks, a rental, when one of our other cars was being repaired, and it was hard to get in and out of, and when you get, over 60 or over 70 or whatever, you don't fold as well when you're trying to get in the car, So getting into a Model 3 is really a little inconvenient. So that's why we got the Model Y. Anyway, so he has a Model S. He had 2 years worth. And let me kill this call that has come in. Sorry. These people call, and they call in on my iPads. I got a phone here. They don't call the phone number. They call the data line that's on an iPad. They're selling services, and it's annoying. I'm sorry for that inconvenience. Anyway, so my neighbor, Dr. Brian, last name to be kept a secret. Dr. Brian spent $2,000 of his own money to have a level 2 plug, which means a 230 volt, 32 amp circuit put on the back end of a column right next to his car in his parking place. So when I noticed, so he plugs right in there and charges his Tesla. Well, when he sold his Tesla and is a proud owner of a Genesis SUV, I noticed that, and I sent him a text. I said, there's a strange Genesis in your parking place. I just wanted you to be aware of it. He answers me back in text message and says, "No, Jimmy, I sold my Model S, like in Sam, and I am now the proud driver of a Genesis." I sent him a text message back, and I said, "Oh, well, would you like to trade parking places? I got a great spot on level 3. You're going to love it." And I explained it all to him, and I said that because I still have my Tesla, and that way I can plug right in there where you had that circuit brought in. And how about if we just unofficially swap spots? You can be in my spot, and I'll be in your spot. Unless Anne decides to throw me out of the spot for some reason, then we'd have to switch back. He said, "Sure, let's do it." So a couple of days ago, Sunday, I think it was, we were coming back from having breakfast at Flakowitz, where I met up with Howard, and he was a highly respected citizen in Boca Raton, Howard G. And he looked up and he says, "Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? I listened to your show yesterday or whatever." And I said, "Oh, how nice." So he may be listening in right now, Howard. Well, thank you so much. It's Tuesday morning at 9:28 a.m. Anyway, so we swapped spots, and now I have, when you're living in a building, the one thing about having an electric car is, how do you charge that little sucker? Because you don't have a house with your own garage where you can wire up things the way you want. You're in a building with 200 other people, and you got to go through building management, and it costs you a couple $1,000 to run a circuit out to your car. And I actually asked them to run a circuit out to my parking place, and a year ago, and they never answered me back. And I followed up with Ann, and I said, "Ann, so what's with the?" They said, "Well, corporate hasn't decided yet." So anyway, so in the meantime, Dr. Brian let me have his spot, and he has my spot, and now I have a parking place with electricity. So we can plug in, and about when you run it down to about when you run a gas car, you don't want to run it down below 50 miles of range, in a gas tank. I never, which is like empty, and you got 45 miles of gasoline in the reserve area of the tank, so to speak. Well, same thing with electricity cars. You got your fuel tank, and you don't want to run it down below, 40 or 50 miles worth of range. Just like you wouldn't drive your gasoline car below 40 or 50 miles worth of range, where you shouldn't. You don't want to pull into your driveway on empty, You want to have that needle up a little bit below empty. I've run it down further than that, but you shouldn't. Anyway, so same thing with electricity cars. And gas stations in the United States, FYI, there are about 150,000 gas stations spread out all over the continental United States. Well, there are about 40,000, if you can believe it. There are about 40,000 electric outlets all over the United States where you can charge your electric car. And I think there are around 12,000 Tesla superchargers spread out all over the United States. So I can drive from, here to New York, and every, 75 miles up I-95, or, if you're driving up to Chicago or driving over to California or Texas or whatever, there are supercharger stations. Shows up on the map if you put in the address of where you're going. As a convenience, they show you every supercharger as you're driving by on I-95, I-75, I-4, whatever you're driving. There are superchargers all over the place, and they're building these supercharger locations, and about one a week opens in the United States. They got them all over Europe. They started doing that like 8 years ago. So when you're opening up a supercharger, which has 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 spots where you can pull in and charge, it's not just one thing, just like a gas station. You've got multiple places where you can, stop and plug the gasoline pipe and pull the, well, electricity, you just plug it in, and with these, it automatically logs into your car. It logs into your debit card or credit card, whichever account you've already pre-registered in the computer in your car. So when your charging is complete, it automatically whacks in my case, it's a debit card, for $20 or whatever. With an electric car, with our battery system is like a 300-mile battery, but they don't want you charging past 95% or 90%, for everyday charging. We don't intend to charge every day. We intend to charge like every 3 days. Now that we have a plug, right? Because we're in spot 266 now instead of 358, I think. Yeah, we just plug in that whenever we feel like it. How nice is that? Wow. Gee, I can't even imagine. Yeah, so we had it all plugged in last 2 nights ago. And I can look up on the car right here. You can see on your screen left. There we go. You can see there's a software update. So I need to connect the car up through I will create a hotspot on my phone, since we're a multi-family garage. X number of, 400 cars parking in this garage. We don't have a Wi-Fi connection, so I have to set up a hotspot with my iPhone, and that's how I load the software into the car. Because every 2 weeks they got software updates going into the Tesla, improving its autopilot feature and so forth. So there's a new software update available, but you can see up on the top here, 220 miles of range. I can touch it. Oops. 75. So our fuel tank is at 75%. So you can imagine that with the needle on a gas, the needle is over to 75%. Three quarters full, 1/4 empty. So you can, I must say I was, now we've been driving electric for 4 years. So, you have this embodiment of, they call it range anxiety. When am I going to run out of electricity? Because you can't exactly have a gallon of electricity, an empty gallon jug, and run down to the gas station. You fill up this gallon jug and then pour it in your car because you're on the side of the car and you ran out of gas. Okay, well, with an electric car, you can't run to the gas station or the fuel station. Let's change our vocabulary just a little bit. We run down to the fuel station with a jug of electricity. No. So you have to be a little more careful so that, in my case, since we have a parking place with a plug, I think it's the only plug in the whole garage. But, Dr. Brian, he paid for that plug. So it's in a private resident parking only. It's not open to the public. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Anyway, so we have 75% of our tank is full, energy tank, if you will. And if I touch it, it tells you the number of miles. So I got 220 miles of range of energy in the battery to drive around. So when it gets down, around 35%, we'll plug it in. And, so if Marilyn comes home from work at 5:30, she can just plug it in. I wrapped up the extra cable so that, we only need about 6 or, let's say, 8 feet worth of cable, because we're parked right next to the plug. And so I coiled up the excess cable because it's like a 22-foot cable. We only need 8 feet, so I coiled it up and wrapped it up with an old bungee cord to make it a little more convenient. Oh gosh, I'm sorry for the phone is ringing off the hook here. Which, if my actual phone, you want to call me, 561-416-1100 will ring right into this iPhone with this little this time clock is showing how much airtime we have so far. We've been on air. If you remember, this is a simulcast on 3 live social networks. Facebook Live, which is where I started. And then I added Twitter Live and added YouTube Live. My handle is the @FAU for you. And I've been adjunct faculty at FAU, Florida Atlantic University, for 21 years. But who's counting? Teaching principles of digital photography and post-image processing. And most people are interested in the post-image processing, which essentially I'm teaching Photoshop Elements, a very popular software program for image editing, which I've done a lot of that on air here. Anyway, so moving around a little bit here. So I have 220 miles of range on my Tesla. It shows up here as a red car. I painted the car red digitally for the application that displays on my iPhone or my iPad. But the car is actually black. And black doesn't show up well on this app when you have a black background on the app. So I had the ability to change the car to red, so I changed it to red. Just so you can see the car in the app. Yes, sir. There's you can see climate controls. Where is the car? 101 Plaza Real South. There it is. And if I push this little caret right here, touchscreen, it shows exactly where it is on the map. And a little red diamond will show up in that garage. Which I'm not going to bother wasting time for that. And you charge stats. That's an interesting graphic. So it shows the last 30 days we have charged 403 kilowatts. Yeah, that gets a little interesting when you're trying to convert kilowatts into, miles. This is the year we spent $537 to fuel up the Tesla. But now that we have our own plug, so to speak, because Dr. Brian has given me the exclusive use of his plug, because he doesn't have an electric car anymore. We swap spots. And the building doesn't charge him to plug in. And said, forget it. We got so many watts coming out of this building, no one will notice. So we're not going to bother to separately meter your electric charge consumption. So, until we hear otherwise, our electric charge is going to go pretty much down to zero, unless we're out on the road and we supercharge out on the highway. Yep. And over the last year, the gas savings, $776. Wow. Saved per year. That's quite an amazing situation. And I'm assuming that the kilowatt hour rate is, like 12 or 14 cents per kilowatt for FPNL in this area. Yeah, I think I had, 15 cents per kilowatt I have in the computer of the car. Yeah. And of course, in theory, that actually is zero, because they're not charging me 15 cents a kilowatt, because they're not separately metering that circuit. They could do that. They could call FPNL out there and separately meter that plug. It would cost them a couple $100. And they said, they just said, forget about it, don't worry about it. When you build an apartment building these days in the Boca Raton, Southern Palm Beach County area, for a building this size, you would have to have 7 or 8 outlets provided in your garage, and no charge. They wouldn't. You have to provide 7 or 8 charging spots in your parking garage. And I think you can charge or not charge. And I think most of the building owners that are currently building buildings this size are not charging for the plug-ins as a community service for the people that own condos or apartments in the current buildings. I don't think any of the buildings are charging, for the electricity. If we go to Avon Louis, for example, when I pull in there in the valet, which, we know the valet guy, and I hand him my valet card, which happens to look like this. Whoops. Inside this silicone is my business card. You've seen it. And behind my business card there's like a credit card looking thing that Tesla gives you when you buy the car. And it's a black card that's inside of here. You can see the black, so you have the lighting, so you can actually see the black, the blackness of the card in there. Yeah, that's a Tesla car that operates the vehicle. So if your phone is your key, but if your phone ran out of juice, this card will open up the car and operate the car. Well, of course, if you're going to valet the car, you're not going to leave your phone in there. So you give them this. So this is my valet doodad. And I keep this in my back pocket. for emergency use in case my phone gets stolen. That's a possibility, a very unfortunate possibility. Or it runs out of power. That would be an unfortunate possibility. In which case, if I walked up near my Tesla with a phone that ran out of battery, it would not unlock the car. So then I would need this key card thingy. Or if someone stole your phone, that would be a very unfortunate possibility. And then you wouldn't have, because your phone is your phone is your key. They keep on saying that when you watch videos with the Tesla, when you buy the car, you watch these 6 or 7 videos and they say, your phone is your key. Your phone is your key. They say that 138 times. They try to drill it into your brain, which after a while, it's like second nature to you. And if you have your phone and it's properly charged, and there's a setting in the menu of the car, and if you check that setting, the setting that says when you are about 14 feet away from your car, it'll automatically unlock the driver's side, and then you just walk up to the car and just walk right in it. Open up the door, sit down, close the door behind you, and you're off to the races. If you have someone coming in on the passenger side, you touch a little lock button that says unlock, and that'll open up the door on the other side so your passengers can get in the car. If you don't do that, just the driver's side opens for safety, because you don't want a bad guy on the other side that might sneak in. We don't want any bad guys getting in with you, or with me, or with Marilyn, unauthorized. So when you get near the car, the driver's side automatically unlocks electronically through a low energy Bluetooth situation. Pretty nice. Yeah. But anyway, we were looking at some of the menu settings. So this is actually connected my iPad. I loaded the application into my iPad here, so you could see, and it says it's parked. If you come down here, it tells you where it's parked. This is telling me what software version I have in the car, because there is a download that I should be getting. And, your security settings and your drivers that are permitted to drive the car, which is currently Marilyn and Jimmy. There are upgrades you can buy right through. You can order service. If you got a flat tire, you just go to your Tesla app, plug in here, and say, what can we do for you? Request service. You push that button, interior, exterior, collision, noise, vibration, tires or wheels. For example, if you got a flat tire, this is where you would tell Tesla. This is monitored 24/7. So if you ever needed service and you're out on the highway, Tesla has very special tires that they've engineered, which several of the tire manufacturers have manufactured tires for Teslas. There are, several million of these cars, floating around on the roads these days. So they've got, I think, 4 different tire manufacturers that are manufacturing these special tires for Teslas. You wouldn't want to put one of these on your Cadillac. And I don't know the numbers and the dimensions, but it's a pretty big wheel. And it's wide. It's a wide track. Has special treads so that you don't have as much road noise. Since there is virtually no engine noise, because you can't hear these electric motors run when it's powering the car forward. Whereas when you drive a gasoline engine, you got this engine in the front that's, idling at 1500 RPM, throwing off heat and some, vapors out the exhaust pipe. When you drive an electric car, there's no exhaust pipe. There's no engine running at, 2,000 or 3,000 RPM. You can't hear it. So it's a very quiet ride. When you are inside the car and you shut the door, if you got the radio on, you don't hear anything else but the music or the news or whatever you got your audio system turned on to. And with a Tesla, you have only one kind of audio system. You don't have a choice. It's super duper premium audio system. And it is. The audio system is it's got like 12 speakers, woofers, and, all this stuff. So the sound is like spectacular. Has an equalizer in there so you can kind of like balance the amount of high and low frequency that you want. But of course, I've played with all those controls. It has a trunk in the front because there's no engine, and it has a trunk in the back. Of course, we have a Model Y, so that's like a hatchback. It's an SUV kind of a thing. So you have this bigger thing that opens up to put all kinds of things in the back, which we virtually have nothing in the back except for the cable that charges the car. Yeah. So isn't that nice? The app shows you we've had the car since March 18th, I believe, and we got 4,502 miles on the odometer. You can see it right there, right below the words dual motor, 4502. There's a VIN number there, and it gives me the software version, 24.33.5. Yep, version 12. And now it's telling me I got another software version that I can load into the car. And so I get my iPhone near the car and turn on the, the hotspot. And then the car will recognize the hotspot. That's all pre-done, so I don't have to load that in over and over again. And it recognizes the car. And it recognizes the phone, and then the little down arrow that's up on the display turns from orange to green, and it downloads at 8 megabits per second. That would be the download speed. And these downloads for software is around 30, 40, 50 megabytes, maybe 100 megabytes. So anywhere from 25 minutes to 55 minutes. If you actually, so it downloads the software, and then you push a button that says you want to load the software now. So it downloads it into a bucket, and it sits there in the bucket until such time as you say install the update. And it says a warning message that says if you install this update, your car will be out of commission for 25 minutes. So have it parked somewhere where you don't need it for 25 or 35 or 55 minutes. And the longest I've seen is 55, and the shortest is 25 minutes. So you wouldn't normally install the software until you're parked in your parking place and you go back into your house and where you're going to leave your car for an hour or two. Yep. We're planning on going. Marilyn took the day off today and yesterday. She had a couple of extra days. She can only carry over a week, so she's burned up a couple of these days off. And yesterday and today is 2 of those days, so we're going to have a nice lunch somewhere. we were going to have breakfast. I said, no, let's have a nice lunch. Find a nice lunch spot that you want to go to, and let's have an afternoon of it. So I said, think about it and let me know tomorrow. Surprise me. I'll chauffeur you to lunch. Pick the place. You know, Meisner Park, north or south, east, west. Hopefully not Miami. Yep. Let's take a look at this map I've downloaded for our convenience. And this shows you, these are all the House seat. This has been updated a minute ago. I'll push the little reload button right there. See right there? It says latest results 40 seconds ago. As of 9:56 Eastern Time. It checks for updates every minute. So they're counting votes in a few of these states. There are apparently 3 Republican seats that are undetermined. Races haven't been called yet. And 2 Democratic leaning seats. So you got 5 districts that haven't determined who the congressman is yet. They're still counting votes. Can you believe it? All this time has passed, and they're still counting votes. And where do you say are they doing that? Right here. I happen to have Axios here as an outstanding application that shows you where. And you see the one on the top of the list? That is Alaska. AK-AL is Alaska. The Alaska GOP district, 99% of the votes counted, and the GOP candidate is up 2%. But the race has not been called because there is a statistical possibility that they can lose that seat if all of the remaining 1% went to the Democrat in AKAL district. Arizona, there's a check mark there, which means that race has been called. In Arizona, 01, the GOP candidate won by 4% points, and 99% of the vote is counted. In California, 13, only 86% of the precincts have been counted. Can you believe it? Ouch. It's 2 weeks after the election, and they're not done counting. That gets scary. The Democrats won California 45. It's almost a dead even race with 6% of the votes uncounted. Iowa 01, the GOP candidate is up 0.02. And all the other races here have been called. So there are 5 races open that haven't been called yet by the Associated Press. I don't know what, it's not a matter of law that the Associated Press calls these races, but the Associated Press has been the news agency that have been looking at the statistics and deciding, when to call a race. Anyway, so these are the House of Representatives. The Republicans will be controlling Congress because they have 218 seats, and that is one more than necessary to have the majority. And so if they lost all the 5 open seats at this point, it would be 217 to 218. And together, what do you get? 435. That is the number of congressmen in the House of Representatives, 435. It's exactly that number. I have an image. So in the state of Florida, we have 28 congressional districts. And I found an article, there it is, that in the 2020 census, you see right here, Florida had 21,538,000 population, 21,538,000. And since each congressional district is to consist of 769,000 people, because the population of the nation is like 330 million, that's another reason for the census. You divide the number of seats into the total population of the United States, and that's how we get the number of seats in the House of Representatives. That's the math. So I'm trying to get rid of that. So you divide I'll do it on my calculator over here. Clear that. 21,538,000, 21,538 divided by 769 equals 28. That's how many representatives we get in the state of Florida. It went up one from 27 to 28. And then when we have another census in 2030, which is in a few years, since this is 2024, so 6 more years, and we get a couple million more people, then we'll end up with 29 House of Representatives. There's a lot of people moving to Florida. So New York State, the number of House of Representatives has been dropping, and Florida has been increasing. Illinois, people have been leaving Illinois because of the tax. You know, these states have like 13.5% state income tax. So you do your federal income tax, you determine your taxable income, and bam, the state takes another 13% away. Yeah, it is. So if you're in a 27% tax bracket with the federal tax, then you get hit for another 13%. That's 50% of your income is whacked with taxes. That's a lot of that'll make you move to Florida, because you know what the state income tax is in Florida? 0. You know what the income tax is for Tennessee? 0. You know what the income tax rate is in Texas? 0. Arkansas, it's like 3%. They're coming down, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the governor of the state of Arkansas, is trying to work it so that the income tax will be 0. Yeah, it can be done. You balance your budget. Don't spend more than you have. That's not a very complicated rule. Anyway, so this is, you see redistricting for 2022. I clipped that out just to show you, and I circled those two numbers so you can see what the numbers are for the Sunshine State of Florida. Yeah. Well, I wonder if we're going to, another point off the schedule, but several years ago, Marco Rubio sent and approved, the governor has signed off on it, the Florida legislature signed off on it, to change the time zone thing for Florida so that they don't have daylight savings time and no daylight savings time. They call it the Sunshine Act, something like that. Sunshine Act of Florida. which they're going to, when we go to daylight savings time, it will stay at daylight savings time. And every year thereafter, it won't go back and forth between daylight savings time and not daylight savings time. So they decided daylight savings time will be what it is. And the whole panhandle, everything will be on the same time zone instead of having the panhandle on Central Time, and the whole rest of the state is on Eastern Standard Time. So they decided the whole state's going to be the same time zone. So there's two jiggles. That is sitting on Chuck Schumer's desk for like 4 or 5 years. So when we finally get control of the Senate, in January 20th of 2025, which is about 60 days away, I'm sure Senator Rubio is going to be mentioning to the Senator Scott, probably of Florida, to remind the Senate Majority Leader, trying to think of these vocabulary words, the Senate Majority Leader of the new Senate that gets essentially created in soon, or the existing. I think they've already elected the Senate Majority Leader, and he will bring it. He will bring it before the president. The Senate will sign off on it, and it goes to the president, and boom, it gets enacted. And then there'll be a date when it starts, and I guess it'll be in 11 months later. I don't know if it'd be this May or next May. Whenever they go to daylight savings time, it just stays there. In November, it wouldn't get turned back. And there's probably enough time for everybody to get kind of used to that. So it'll either be in 2025 or 2026. But I'm sure Rubio he's got that on his to-do list to make sure that act gets off the Senate docket and gets passed to Trump for his signature. There are like 16 or 17 other states, in the southeast here that wants to do the same thing. So you don't drive through different states and all of a sudden your clock is forward and back and forward and back, They all want to be. I think there are like 17 states it's one by one by the last congressional law that was passed. It says you have to do it according to the procedure I just outlined. And Florida wants to be daylight savings time 12 months out of the year. And hopefully this year, meaning 2025, will be the year when that actually gets enacted. Here's a little symbol that I was proud to see. I happen to have an Apple Watch Series 10 on, and this guy who wrote this article that was written, Raster 4 is the name of the author at cnet.com. That's what you can see the reverse pinch there of the person that made this post. And he said, I've tested dozens of smartwatches, but the Series 10, Apple Watch Series 10 beats them all. Well, we've been wearing Apple Watch ever since they came out, and they are magical. I can see my blood sugar on there. It's 130, 135, which is slightly elevated. You want to keep it between 100 and 140. It's at 135, which is fine. I can push a button on here, right there. and that would set an 11-minute timer, which is the exact time to boil a box of spaghetti. And you can set it to a bunch of other times. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. But my default is 11 minutes because that's what al dente is when I make a box of number 12 spaghetti. And I love to eat the pasta. It is a nice form of a carbohydrate. Yes, sir, Bob. And if it wasn't for us going to lunch somewhere nice, hopefully, if Marilyn feels up to it, otherwise I'm going to have a bowl of pasta, probably. And I'll have a bowl of pasta for dinner if we go out for lunch. Yes. So I make 2 or 3 boxes at a time, store them in the cooked pasta in containers, and add sauce to it as we eat it. Don't put the sauce in until you're ready to eat it, or else the pasta will absorb too much moisture and then the pasta becomes mushy. You don't want mushy pasta. You want al dente pasta. And the way to do that is you have the sauce separate from the pasta, and when you're ready to eat it, you warm up the pasta and you warm up the sauce. You put them together, a little stir, and you're ready to eat it. The sauce stays fresh and the pasta does not get too mushy. Yeah, that's the magic for that. I've been doing the pasta for a lot of years. All right, well, this guy likes the Apple Watch. Well, good for you. So do we. Marilyn has one, I got one. I keep up to date with the Apple Watches because at my, I hate to put it this way, but at my advanced age, I want all the technology on my wrist that money can buy. Because, this watch is out for like sleep apnea in case, before the Apple Watch or before these devices you can put on your wrist, namely the Apple Watch. If for some reason or other thought you had sleep apnea, I don't know how you would know that. Maybe you'd wake up and some kind of a panic, or your wife would beat on you because you stopped breathing. I think it has something to do with not breathing while you're sleeping. Some kind of condition like that. Well, your watch monitors your breathing, and you breathe, 22, 21 times a minute. You can, and you'd wear this spring-loaded thing that you'd put around your chest, and then it would send signals to your doctor's office. There'd be all kinds of these expensive tests that they do to see if during your sleep you're not breathing properly, aka sleep apnea. The Apple Watch keeps track of that, and it would send you an alarm and buzz you if your breathing rate suddenly came off of 20 and a half. My breathing rate is like 21 breaths per minute. I've seen the charts, which you can pull them up on your watch, and I get, all of a sudden it dropped to some lower number, then it would set off an alarm and it would say, Jimmy, you seem to have sleep apnea. Because at 3:26 a.m., your breathing rate changed from 20.5 breaths per minute to 12 breaths per minute, which is too low. So you need to have something. They can embed a device in your chest which puts electrodes into a certain part of your rib cage so that, it probably shocks you internally to get your breathing again, so you don't drop dead while you're sleeping. I mean, I'm making that up a little bit. There is a device that you can have inserted in your chest under your skin. You wouldn't really see it, which tracks your breathing rate, and if a sleep apnea kind of an event were to occur, it would energize your chest and start your breathing again. Yeah. I've seen the commercials on TV. Or else you wear this stupid mask with a pump, which that ain't happening. Yeah, I would have the embedded, whatever the hell that's called, because that's the way to deal with that. It's kind of like it's something, and you have it on your one side of your chest, and if you had a pacemaker, it'd be on the other side of your chest, which would wire into your heart, parts of your muscular system in the heart. If you had a tachycardia, or which means that your heart is beating too fast, even though you're sitting on the couch or sleeping. All of a sudden your heart is going, like this. So a pacemaker would slow your heart down so that it beats at some kind of reasonable rate when you're sitting on the couch. Brachycardia is when your heart is beating too slow. You're pedaling on a bicycle and your heart is, just going, like 40 beats per minute. That's too slow if you're riding your bicycle. Either a stationary bike or a bike you're riding outside. Or if you had a condition, other heart conditions, you would have an implant, and it puts your cardiologist would tell the surgeon, assuming that your cardiologist is not the surgeon, you tell your surgeon where to place the wires for your implant, and then it energizes the implant, which is rechargeable lithium battery. You can put a charger up on your chest and recharge that battery, and that's another alarm that goes off in your iPhone or somewhere, to make sure your implant has enough stored energy in there to work its magic. That's how those things, they don't open up your chest and put in a new battery. They're rechargeable. Older times, they had to put a new battery in there. But I think they have rechargeable batteries now. And you just put a little thing on your chest, when you're sitting on the couch for an hour, and it recharges the battery. It's relatively fast, painless. It's magnetic, so that it attaches itself to the implant through your skin. Ooh, I don't have one of those, but that's how that would work. Which is not, it's not a big deal. Once that heals, they do a little slice in your chest and slide that thing underneath. Of course, the wires have to go in, and they have to figure out how to attach the wires. I don't know how they do that. I don't think they have to open up your chest in any big way, like if they were doing bypass. I think they have other ways of moving those wires around so they get, close enough to the heart muscle to work its magic. I also don't know what I'm talking about with that either. But I am just imagining how that would be. There was an article written, and this guy asked the question, and he answered the question in the article: can Trump serve a third term? Well, according to the U.S. Constitution And I happen to have a copy right here of the U.S. Constitution, because in this little 75-page booklet, which is, 35 pages front and back, which makes 70 pages. It's 75, so, yeah, you can count the pages. The entire Constitution and all amendments are in this little booklet. Yeah. They're all here. Yeah, 26. I think there are 27 amendments. I think there's one more page here somewhere. Oh, there it is. 27th Amendment. There it is. You see, I knew that. I'm not too sure why I know that, but that's what it is. And somewhere in one of these amendments, which since I'm talking about it, let's just, I think it's like the 20-something amendment. No, it's not that one. Ah! I had it, I guessed it right. 22nd Amendment. No person shall be elected to the office of the president for more than twice. They don't have to be consecutive terms. They can be separated. And in Trump's case, he was separated by, Biden, who, served the term. Hold on a second. Now Marilyn's iPad is ringing. But hopefully she's still sleeping. I told her, sleep in, we'll go to lunch. Anyway, there's my Constitution. I keep that right there in case someone calls in or myself just wanted to know. So the 22nd Amendment limits the term of the president to 8 years, 2 terms. 8 years or less. You can serve half a term. So it could be 8 years. These do not have to be consecutive. So unless you actually amended the Constitution, which that is a very serious procedure, in which you would have to have 75% of the state legislatures would have to approve that. So they call it a supermajority, 75%. So if you got 100 senators, you need 75 of them to go along with amending the Constitution. I mean, you got 27 amendments, so it's obviously happened 27 times in the last 257 years. Yeah. So, I don't imagine, if he was a younger guy, he's like 78, I believe. He's like 14 months. I think he's 14 months younger than Jimmy. I did that math at sometime someone asked me, or I asked myself, how much younger or older is Trump than I? And he is 14 months younger than Jimmy. He's born in June, I'm born in March. So it's 5 quarters. He's 5 quarters younger. And his son, Barron, was born on March 20. And yours truly was born on March 20. We have the same birthday. How about that? Yes, sir, Bob. I was just born a few years younger than him. I heard on the news that Barron is still growing, and he's like 6'9", but growing. And someone in the news said that his final height is anticipated to be 7 foot tall. I mean, this kid is a big, tall kid. He's not wide. I don't know what his weight is. He's not fat. He's on the slim side, it seems. You know, from what you see when he's walking around, so forth in the newsreels. But he is 6'9", 6'10". That's up there with some of the taller basketball players. Professional professional basketball players. 6'10". Wow. Maryland's cousins are like 6'10". We go over there in Fort Myers, I feel like I'm a Lilliputian. At 5'8", I look up at 6'10" and go, holy mackerel! I get neck spasms from looking up at these guys. So would you mind sitting down while we have a conversation? Yeah. Phew. Amazing. All right, SpaceX is getting ready to launch. In case you missed it. Whoops, where is that? Oh, here's a picture I took when I got up this morning. It's 6:19 a.m. It was sunrise, but it was, as you can see, partly cloudy. Lots of cloudy, actually. That's a view from my balcony at 6:09 a.m. this morning. You can see up in the very top. There's a time. It says 6. Now, if I push up on this, you see the EXIF data. It pulls the information from the header of the file. Being a digital photography professor at FAU, they call me Professor Jim, aka Jimmy Photo. Teaching there 21 years. We've taken 51,000 photos of FAU football games. Can you imagine? But look at this. And the EXIF data of this file that I took this morning at 6:19 a.m. The camera was set at 24 millimeters at f1.78. It's a 9 megapixel file. 9 million pixels. So the dimension is 4,032 pixels going across and 2,200. I didn't say that right. 4,032 pixels this way and 2,268 pixels that way. And if we did the math on that, let me just multiply that. 2,268 times 4032. 4032. What do we get? 9,144,000 pixels. So they rounded it. They said it's 9 million pixels. So sue me. That's what the... Anyway, so it's a JPEG file. You see JPEG. It tells you also in the header of the file, they call it the header, we can see exactly where this picture was taken. And I can keep doing the expando, the reverse pinch. And, there's Meisner Boulevard, there's, the Lake Boca, and there's the Atlantic Ocean. So whenever you take a picture with the iPhone, it is, let's see, We get the satellite view. That's better. I prefer satellite view. There's our building, and I can like go up like this, and there you can see what the building looks like if you were flying in an airplane. Look at that. And see right there, there's my balcony. And I took this picture. It shows the picture that I took right on my balcony. How about that? Because the coordinates, the GPS coordinates of exactly where I took this picture are embedded in the file of that picture. And I can actually reverse pinch the United States. Well, I'm actually looking at one photo, so that would work. But if I went to the whole photo album, you'd see pictures all over the United States of all the different XF data all over the. I'm on one picture, but anyway. So that's what it looked like outside my balcony this morning at 6:19, aka home. Yep. And there is the Boca Hotel, in that classic, very pale pink look. like 24 stories. If you're building a building like this apartment building here, condo building, 160 feet is as tall as you can do it. It's like 9 stories, assuming you have like 11 and a half feet, 12 feet between floors. And then you have, ceiling height and places where the air ducts go and all that. There it is. But if you see this floor plate, between each floor plate, you see those different bright lines there. That you can count them all the way down. It's like 9 stories tall. And on the 9th floor, you can have most of these buildings, the 9th floor is almost like, you got windows up and windows down on the 9th floor. That would be that could be a townhouse on that 9th floor. You can go 100, I think the building height restriction in Boca Raton right now is 150 feet. And you can have 19 feet, something like that, for the parapet, which is, see, there's the roof of the building, that floor plate, and then you got this mechanical equipment stuff on top, and that can go up like 16 or 19 feet. So you can't go 170 feet, but you can go like 167 feet, something like that. So you're going to have 17 feet above the roof for your air conditioning equipment, elevator, motors, pulleys, stuff for your elevator shafts, however those elevators are energized. So, we're talking about energizing elevators. Here's one more graphic, which will make your hair stand on end. AI chatbots. We're talking about this artificial intelligence. Well, if you feed in all the data about your medical situation, it has defeated doctors' opinions. So when you get, you have this test, you have that test, you have all these tests. The doctor looks at all the tests and says, we gotta take this, we gotta do surgery on this piece. So whatever that decision is of the doctor, if they've gone through all these tests. Well, the AI chatbots have defeated the doctors almost 100% of the time. So the doctor misdiagnoses the biological information that's fed into a chatbot. That's an article that I suggest you Google. AI chatbots defeated doctors at diagnosing illness. Go ahead and I can actually, with the magic of the iOS operating system, I have just outlined that sentence, and I'm going to look it up. And I hit look up, and this was a New York Times article. Let's press on that. I mean, isn't this amazing? I mean, we're doing this on live TV. Yeah, chatbots defeated doctors at diagnosing illness. A small study found that ChatGPT outdid human physicians when assessing medical case histories. That's scary because this ChatGPT is relatively new. In an experiment, doctors who were given ChatGPT to diagnose illnesses did slightly better than doctors in diagnosing medical conditions. The chatbots alone outperformed all the doctors in the medical center, according to this New York Times article. And Dr. Adam Rodman, an expert in internal medicine at Beth Israel Medical Center in Boston, confidently expected that chatbots built to use artificial intelligence would help doctors diagnose illnesses. And not only help them, but, it searches the entire knowledge base of medical knowledge. Now, when you have a bunch of tests, the doctor says, oh, you have a fever. You don't have a fever. You're coughing. He listens to your heart. He listens to you wheeze with your coughing. He says, okay, you seem to have a virus of prescribes this and that. Well, it could be emphysema. It could be this and that. It could be like all kinds of different, lung issues. Well, you need to go to your pulmonologist to get the lung thing. Well, this chatbot GPT searches the entire knowledge base of information. They feed in your, all these tests that you've taken, and the artificial intelligence will determine what what your illness is and how it should be treated. There we go. The beginning of the artificial intelligence is infecting the medical business. Let's just use the word infecting, pardon the expression. Yeah, infecting. In this case, it's a good way because it's helping to treat, medical, medical tests. If I was a practicing physician, I would be all over that. I would have my MacBook Pro just stuffed with that software and feed, or the hospital computers, and just feed in all those tests and let it search the knowledge base to come up with a diagnosis. Why wouldn't you do that? You essentially, you're relying on the doctor's memory, which, could be failing or mistake. When doctors say they've opened a practice, they mean it. They are practicing. So that's why doctors with a little gray on their temples, chances are, not necessarily, not absolutely, but they've had more practice as opposed to less practice. It's like playing tennis. The more tennis you play, the more practice you have in playing tennis, the better tennis player you'll be, to the extent of the physiology of your body and your brain. You know, if you're a good shot or not such a good shot, or if you're big or tall or muscular, practice. How often you practice, and how often a doctor practice. When he opens up his practice, it's the same word, You get what I'm saying? So, you want that 64-year-old doctor just before he retires. Yeah, because that way he's got as much practice as possible before he retires, if he retires at 65. And most of them don't, because what the hell else are they got to do? And most doctors are, they're like chained to their patients. They can't. It's hard for a doctor to tell the patient, "Hey, Jimmy, I'm going to retire. I'm going to retire." It's I had a painful experience when Stanley Weiner, my doctor, for 25 years in Boca Raton here, he said, "Jimmy, I'm going to retire." We're like buddies, first name basis. Stanley, how am I doing? Instead of Dr. Weiner, I call him Stanley. I see him out in the neighborhood. "Hey, Stanley, how the hell are you?" Jimmy, I'm doing fine. This is funny. I had bypass surgery 6 years ago. So 5.5 years ago, I'm in, they wire you up and you go into the gym and you do your walking on the treadmill, and then you do this and do that. They have you hooked up to a 4 or 5 lead remote thing that's measuring your heart, and it goes to screens up at the front of the room, and they have like 30 or 40 patients every hour and a half exercising, and you're wired up, and it goes to up front, and you got 3 or 4 nurses up there watching these screens to see how your heart is pulsing and so forth, because you just had bypass surgery, and they want to make sure the surgery went okay. So they watch you exercise, and you do this for like 4 or 5 months. And so one time I'm on the treadmill, and I see this guy. He's got a cap on. He wears shorts. He's got some kind of a shirt, like with like a little jacket that zips up. He's got the zipper all the way up to the top of his neck, and he's got a cap on. He's got sunglasses on, and I look. He walks right in front of me. I said, "Stanley," is my doctor. I said, "Stanley, are you stealth?" He was trying to come in with a disguise so no one would recognize him. So I said, "Stanley, are you stealth today?" He starts laughing because I recognized him through his disguise. That was so funny. He started cracking up. Oh, what are you going to do? Yes, I am a 4. I survived quadruple bypass surgery. Everyone doesn't get through it, because the doctor can cough at the wrong moment or something. I don't know. Bypass surgery is a pretty exciting surgery. I mean, it's drastic how they do it. It's scary to death if you learn how they do it, which of course I did, and it scared me to death. I fortunately learned how to do it after I had the bypass surgery. And when you gotta have it, because your arteries get blocked or something or other. And I had 4 arteries, 2 of them, which was a total disaster. and 2 of them were like 75, 80% blocked. But 2 of them were like 95% blocked. And they started to atrophy. So with 2 of the bypasses, it was really, we had to hunt for a cardiac surgeon that would accept it. Makes me choke up. That would take my case. What do you mean? So Dr. Ordonez says, I'm going to the Delray Medical Center because I found a cardiac surgeon up there that I know that'll probably take your case. Wish me well. Holy crap, what do you mean, wish you well? I gotta have to wish myself well. I mean, I'm the one that needs to, oh boy. I mean, that was really, it took them, between the doctors that we had at the Boca Raton Center and Delray Medical Center, we had to go through 4 or 5 different surgeons before they'd find one that would take my case. And 2 of the surgeons that were in the Boca Raton Center, my cardiologist says, Jimmy, if we do what those 2 surgeons are recommending, as opposed to what I'm recommending, I don't think you'll survive the surgery. I said, okay, what's plan B? So he gets on to plan B and he says, I'm going to Delray Medical Center tomorrow. I have my CD-ROMs all made, and I'm going to go up there and meet with him at 10 o'clock Saturday morning. Wish me well. Ooh. So, at 11 o'clock, Marilyn comes in to say hello. Hold my hand while I'm in the... Because I haven't had the surgery yet. I had a minor heart attack. I'm on a heparin drip with nitroglycerin drip. Nitroglycerin dilates all your blood vessels. And the heparin is, like an anticoagulant. Make sure you don't get any blood clots anywhere. And they detected I did have a heart attack, and I had the enzyme in my bloodstream said you had a heart attack. So, and they went on the hunt for Red October. And Dr. Brian Bethay in the Delray Medical Center said, come on up here, I'll do it Monday. This is like Saturday. So he comes back, and my cardiologist says, Dr. Bethay will do it Monday morning, 7:30. So I get all prepped, oh my God, what a mess that is. They shave your body, every square inch of your body. They do it twice, and you're freezing, because they're, lathering up and with a shaver. They go through 4 or 5 shavers. They shave every goddamn blade of hair. Ugh. So you're like a peach with no hair on it. That's how they do it. And then they open you up like a Christmas turkey. And I was in surgery for 11 hours. Ouch. 11 hours of anesthesia. My body was so... Mr. Wilson, the operation was a success, but the patient died. Well, how the hell does that happen? You died of the anesthesia. The surgery went right, but the anesthesia killed him. And, 11 or 12 hours, with the anesthesia, it's not a good thing. It took me 3 days to get over the anesthesia. And the operation was like a sideline. And the procedure went properly. They did the bypasses, worked out perfectly. They listen to the heart, they watch it to the thing, and they see it beating properly and all this stuff. Oh boy. Phew. They took the arteries for the bypass out of the mammary area up on top instead of arteries in the leg. And apparently these arteries here will last like 35 years. But the arteries down, if you take them in the leg, they only last about 12 years. So then they got to open you up after every 12 years and redo them, like retreads. He said, well, we're going to use the arteries up here in your chest. So you're good until you're 97. Then you're probably going to drop dead of something else anyway. So I said, okay, sign me up for the 97-year-old arteries. I mean, oh boy, what you're laying in a bed there, and you talk about a piece of meat that's subject to the expertise of the medical community, and then they do all this stuff, and the bill's like $240,000 ago. Oh, holy crap! Insurance paid for every single penny of it. Ugh, God. I'm changing my insurance to back to AARP, United Healthcare. I got all the numbers. I should have it in my email, like tomorrow. Did it for Maryland, did it for Jimmy. I got a call them today or tomorrow from Maryland's the drug plan. So it cost me, 400 plus, it cost me about $550 a month for the health plan and the drug, for the supplemental plan G. And the drug piece is 140 more. So it's $540. Pays for everything. No co-pays. Being in a hospital for a year, which of course we don't want to have happen. Maryland's about $100 a month cheaper because she's a spring chicken. I'm a later chicken. Yeah, she's 7 years younger than I am. So that's the difference. All right, I'm done. I just wanted you to see this. You know what that looks like. Oh boy. I see that and I start to quiver. ChatGPT is diagnosing illnesses and is slightly better than what the doctors can figure out. ChatGPT is outperformed all the doctors in this whole medical system. That's a scary thought. Now they're on ChatGPT -4, a newer system, and this artificial intelligence stuff is serious. It's really going to help the medical community because it remembers everything. It goes through the entire knowledge base of everything that's known about medicine, and then compares that against the data, the tests that they're doing on you, and they're going to do. The artificial intelligence is going to come up with the best decision based on everything that's known about your medical situation. That's about how it works. That's a good thing. So in the next couple of years, that's going to be infiltrated all through the medical system because it's not expensive. It's out there. Oh. Marilyn is up at 11 and she's took her bag and she's running. I don't know what she's going to do. Anyway, I'm done. So you all have a good day. I'm going to shut it down. Been on here for just about 2 hours. So Howard, if you're still with me, or did I put you to nap? I talk about whatever it is. I somehow really got on this medical kick because I thought it was very interesting about this ChatGPT diagnosing medical things up in one of the, right up next to the MIT or, all the hospitals up in the Northeast. Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, so listen, I'll talk to you tomorrow at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock sharp. I've even learned how to do a reservation. It automatically starts at 9. See you tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye-bye.